In April 2024, a Lawson convenience store in Fujikawa Guchiko erected a barrier. It wasn't for flood control, it wasn't for security against theft, it was a 2.5-meter sheet of black mesh, installed specifically to delete the view of Mount Fuji. The store had become a victim of its own framing. The juxtaposition of the blue and white corporate sign against the mountain created a perfect digital asset. Thousands of people arrived to extract that asset. They blocked the highway, they trespassed on private land, they paralyzed the local grid. The town's solution was absolute. If the view destroys the street, the view must go. At the time, the Lawson Wall was treated as a curiosity, a weird localized skirmish in the culture war. In hindsight, it was the first structural signal that Japan's tourism strategy had suffered a catastrophic failure. By 2026, the country hadn't just lost control of the crowds, it was forced to dismantle the concept of public access. The logic of Japanese hospitality was always built on the assumption of manageable numbers. That assumption is gone. What replaced it took a different form in each city, a barrier here, a quota there. But the direction was consistent, controlled access everywhere. But to understand why it got this bad this fast, you have to look at the numbers. In 2025, Japan received 42.7 million international visitors. This was a 34% increase over pre-pandemic levels. Tourism overtook steel and electronics to become the second largest export sector, trailing only automobiles. It brought in over 9.5 trillion yen. On a spreadsheet, this is an economic miracle. On the ground, it was an operational collapse. The infrastructure of Japanese daily life was not built for industrial-scale human throughput. Kyoto was the first circuit to blow. The city sits in a narrow valley, reliant on surface roads and a bus network designed for a population of 1.5 million. When you inject tens of millions of transients into that grid, the system locks up. To show how overtourism affects the day-to-day of a Japanese, let's take a look at the 206 bus lane in Kyoto. This line connects the major universities and hospitals in Kyoto and is a vital lane for many residents. However, this lane also happened to stop at many major tourist destinations as well. By late 2025, these buses were leaving the terminal at 150% capacity. Residents, elderly people trying to get to doctors, students trying to get to class. Watch bus after bus pass them by, the aisles packed solid with tourists and hard-shell luggage. The mayor of Kyoto was forced to admit the state had failed its primary mandate. He acknowledged publicly that taxpayers were physically unable to board the transit they funded. The civic infrastructure had been captured by a transient population that paid no local residents tax. In Fujiyoshida, the breakdown moved from infrastructure to basic sanitation. Tourists began opening the doors of private homes to use the toilets. Reports of defecation in private gardens and trespassing on rooftops became standard. The response from the town was the cancellation of the Cherry Blossom Festival at Chureito Pagoda. This is one of the most valuable images in the Japanese tourism economy. The red pagoda framing the mountain. In 2026, the mayor cancelled it entirely. He cited a sense of crisis to protect residents. The town decided the revenue wasn't worth it. They cancelled the festival and didn't reschedule it. The engine driving this chaos was currency. Throughout 2024 and 2025, the Japanese yen traded at historic lows against the dollar and the euro. Japan became an arbitrage opportunity. It was a first world nation selling itself at developing world prices. This destroyed the natural filter of travel. Historically, the high cost of Japan acted as a gatekeeper. It ensured that visitor volumes stayed manageable. When the yen collapsed, that price floor vanished. Tokyo became cheaper than Bangkok. This financial shift exposed a critical weakness in the Japanese service model. Omotenashi, the traditional concept of anticipatory hospitality, is labor-intensive. It relies on a surplus of time and staff. It requires the host to anticipate needs, to perform complex rituals of service, to bow until the car is out of sight. This is a model that cannot scale. You cannot perform Omotenashi for 42 million people. Japan is facing a severe demographic collapse. The labor force is shrinking. By 2026, bankruptcies in the hospitality sector hit a 13-year high. These businesses didn't fail because they lacked customers, they failed because they couldn't staff the floor. Small ryokans began closing midweek to prevent staff burnout. Kyoto began privatizing the public domain. The Gion district, famous for its geisha, had turned into a surveillance zone. Maiko were being chased down alleys, their kimonos grabbed by content seekers. Locals called it paparazzi violence. The neighborhood council hired private security. By 2026, guards stood at intersections, turning people away from side streets that had been publicly accessible for centuries. Entry was limited to residents and guests with verified reservations. The same logic applied to Mount Fuji. The era of free climbing ended. Yamanashi Prefecture installed a physical gate at the 5th station. They implemented a mandatory 4,000 yen fee and a hard cap on daily climbers. The mountain ceased to be a natural wonder and became a managed asset with a quota. In Osaka, the 2025 World Expo spilled over into the Dotonbori district, creating a sanitation crisis that the municipal government couldn't manage. The piles of garbage and the sheer density of crowds forced the city to freeze the sharing economy. In May 2026, Osaka suspended new applications for minpaku, Airbnb-style lodgings, in residential zones. They sacrificed the revenue to stop the bleeding. In Tokyo, Shibuya Ward codified its temporary Halloween restrictions into permanent law. Street drinking was banned year-round. Security patrols now sweep Scramble Crossing, confiscating alcohol. The ward decided that being boring was preferable to being overwhelmed. Even the rail system, the backbone of Japanese efficiency, began to fracture. Commuter lines running at 200% capacity couldn't absorb the volume of oversized luggage. Rail operators installed blue lighting on platforms, a psychological measure intended to reduce suicide and aggression, because the crowding had made the atmosphere volatile. The platform pushers, once a relic of the bubble era, returned as luggage police, physically blocking tourists from boarding during rush hour. When physical barriers fail, Japan turned to the most effective wall of all: price. The years 2025 and 2026 marked the end of equal treatment. Himeji Castle set the precedent. The admission fee for residents is 1,000 yen. For tourists, it is 3,000 yen. The justification is purely accounting. Tourists do not pay local taxes, so they must pay a surcharge for the infrastructure they consume. This opened the floodgates. Restaurants, theme parks, and ski resorts followed suit. The new Zhonglia theme park launched with separate pricing tiers. In Niseko and Hakuba, lift passes skyrocketed to Aspen levels, effectively pricing the Japanese middle class out of their own mountains. Kyoto hiked accommodation taxes to 10,000 yen per night for luxury stays. The government realized that if they couldn't stop the flood, they could at least monetize the damage. Tourists are no longer treated as guests, they are treated as a revenue stream to offset the cost of their presence. Even the retail experience has been stripped of its frictionlessness. Starting in November 2026, the tax-free shopping system is being dismantled. Visitors must now pay the full price upfront and queue at the airport for refunds. It's a deliberate injection of friction designed to stop resale fraud and slow down the consumption cycle. Urban planners are now discussing what they call the RPG strategy. The concept is to treat the city like a video game. In this model, the tourist starts as a novice, restricted to the outer rings of the city. To access the deeper content, the back streets of Gion, the exclusive temples, the hidden bars, you must level up. You must demonstrate knowledge of local customs, show a history of good behavior, or pay a premium for a guide who acts as a guarantor. Apps are already being deployed to manage this. Reservations are contingent on behavioral scores. Manor guards act as gatekeepers. The goal is to turn the tourist from a passive consumer into someone who has earned the right to be there. The borders are open, but the country is closed. Access is now gated by fees, by regulations, and by the requirement of proof. Proof that you can pay, proof that you can behave, and proof that you understand the cost of your presence. The cancellation of the Fujiyoshida festival was the final admission. There is a hard limit to how much tourism a society can absorb before it ceases to function as a society. Japan has found that limit. The view is still there, behind the black mesh screen. You just have to pay to see it.